Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Lessons learned.
Lessons learned who?
Lessons learned, the podcast we aim to turn our experiences into your wisdom. What's going on, guys?
Bro, that was the
I'm Randy.
It's too early for this bullshit.
I'm Randy,
Too
here
late.
today with Chris, Jared, Joe, and Talon. Guys, welcome back. It's been a little while. For you all watching and listening, there has not been a break. However, we have not recorded in like 2 weeks. This is kind of a return to the show for everybody.
Has
so
it really
guys,
been this
welcome
long?
back. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. It's been like 3 weeks.
It's been a
for me.
while.
Yeah.
Great song.
It's been a
Randy's
while.
Oh my god, what did you eat this morning? I love
Oh my
it.
God.
Nothing.
Anyway,
Yes.
yeah, bro, Sidon's correct over there. Let's see. Talon was in Hawaii, I was in Kansas City, and then Jared was in Florida week after week for the past 3 weeks. So thank God for stocking up episodes for y'all.
Yeah.
Because we didn't record for about 3 weeks there. And it felt good. It felt good.
Hell yeah, brother.
Hell yeah,
Meanwhile,
brother.
Joe's working weekends and overnight at that. So,
And Randy's a
Fantastic.
part-time rock star now.
yeah.
You can tell
But
by
poor-
that.
So today, we're talking about intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation and how to identify which one you are or how you are motivated. And that's an important factor when it comes to decision making. I'm not stealing credit for how smart I sound right now because Randy said that before we started recording. So I'll give him credit where credit's due. But yeah, so let's talk about that. Randy, I know you wanted to start off, so what you got?
All right.
Minus dumbass knock-knock jokes.
Yeah.
That was
So
clever.
I think this is actually a really important thing that everybody should have at least a little bit of a fundamental understanding of, because when it really comes down to it, you do kind of base all of your decision making off of, whether you are intrinsically versus we said we were going to trip over these words.
How we did.
Extrinsically motivated. So I think to start, it's important to understand the differences between the two. So if you are intrinsically motivated, that means that you are more motivated to like do things for yourself and not so much for other people. You are kind of more, you see the world in a different way, I guess, where it's more, you want to do things for you, not because other people tell you to do them. And you're like, people like that don't conform. And this is all like, I read a lot of this from like different studies. I actually have looked into this a lot. When I was in 8th grade, I was in like an enrichment program, and this was something they made us do on like the first day. They gave us like a test to see like whether we were more intrinsically or extrinsically motivated. So it's kind of like people who are extrinsically motivated are motivated more by like what outsiders think or like what other people or what society tells them or thinks that they should do. However, that being said, so those people typically kind of can be more stable in life, but they also have a harder time finding like what makes them happy. Whereas people who are intrinsically motivated kind of like do things more for themselves and have a like easier time finding happiness. However, they have a harder time kind of conforming to societal norms and like making friends and, establishing relationships. So there are pros and cons to both. And just because you are more of one does not mean you're completely one. Like I can cite kind of different examples even just between our group of where, somebody might be like more intrinsically inclined. However, they have traits of someone who is extrinsically inclined. So it's not totally cut and dry. You're not necessarily exactly one or exactly the other one. But I think it is important to know which one you are more of, because it's going to help you as far as like decision making as you move forward in life.
Oh, yeah. I guess you could draw similarities between introverts and extroverts. And
Yeah, I was actually going to bring that up later on, so that's a great point. And again, I think people, I would say just based on what I read and what I watched, people who are intrinsically motivated are more introverts, which would make sense, and then extrinsically are more extroverts. So, and again, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're only those things, and that also doesn't mean that you can't change those things either. Like you can change those qualities about you once you understand them. But I think deep down, like in your core beliefs, that you are kind of like more one or the other.
Yeah. I can definitely
Word.
agree with that. And Randy mentioned that like it's really important for people to understand, or at least look into what they could possibly be. But I think it's also important for other people to try and understand what like if they're intrinsically or extrinsically motivated, such as like leaders. Say like in the Air Force, we get awards. What if no one's extrinsically motivated in that unit?
That happens all the time. It's
Yeah,
a good idea.
it's like I get an award. It's like I don't care.
Yeah, it's
Like-
it also comes with like empathy, sort of. You can kind of tie it in to like, why isn't this person like how do I relate to them?
Yeah.
How are they motivated? Oh, it's not like, oh, award doesn't mean anything to them.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of I'm kind of both. Randy said you could be a little bit of both. That's me because
I was gonna use you as an example.
good. Well,
Yeah.
you can tell me if you agree or disagree with what I say. I want your viewpoint.
Yep.
But at work, I'm definitely extrinsically motivated. It's like, oh, I can get this award because I think it'd be cool to like, I just have this vision in my head of like me down the road with kids and like, when I'm dead and gone, all these awards, people see what I've done. Like, that's how I think. Like, I think that's pretty cool to have like a wall full of shit of my like military career. I think that's pretty cool. Some people
But
probably
see,
watching this. Or
can
like
I
listening,
stop
like,
you right
freaking
there?
Idiot. Yeah, go ahead.
So that actually, I know it kind of sounds like it's the opposite, but that actually is more of intrinsic motivation.
What?
Because that is stuff that you want for you. That's what
True.
you want, and you want people to see. So like extrinsically motivated is like people are telling you to do something. Like you have to be told to do something.
Mm.
And
And
so
you're-
like basically they say that a lot of people who like really conform to all the norms of society, so like you go to school, you do well in school, you go to college, like a lot of those people are typically extrinsically motivated because typically speaking from a society standpoint, that's what's normal, that's what you're supposed to do.
So a person
So
that's
actually-
like extrinsically motivated is relying on other people to tell them, like by an award or just word of
Right.
mouth, saying, "Oh, hey, you're doing a good job." People are looking for that,
Right.
like extrinsically
100%.
motivated people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Extrinsically
you're saying-
motivated people are looking for rewards from others. Like you want those rewards to show off for yourself. I don't
Yeah.
mean show off like that sounds shitty, but like
No,
you want those awards for you so that like you can look back or others can look back on you and say, hey, he had all these awards. People who are extrinsically motivated want the pat on the back and be like, hey, good job. Here's your reward. Here's your gift. Here's this.
Well,
You're doing it for you.
ask
They're
you.
doing it for them.
Let me ask you, because Chris thought it was extrinsic because he wants to get the like awards from work or whatever, and then you say it's intrinsic because he's doing it for himself because he wants it, so he can like look up so he can look good to himself, but he wants to do it for like his family. So it's from I still think it's extrinsic because he wants it so his family in the future can look onto him and have appreciation for what he's done. So like, yes, it's for him, but like it's because he wants the reaction from those other people from his family in the future.
That is true. I mean, it's
It's like-
not completely
it's both.
subjective.
Yeah.
But
a little bit of both. Little
I
think
think-
It is a
catch
little bit of
22,
both.
wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
I think if he was saying that he was doing it from a more I think it's more intrinsic because that's what he wants. Is he wants his family to be able to look back on it, like he wants to do it for them. So I guess in a way that can be considered extrinsic, but I think for me personally, extrinsic would be more like the military wants Chris to get these awards. So Chris
This is
thinks
like a
he
battle
should
of
do
wits.
it
Like,
because
this is good. You're
the
every time
military
you guys
wants
both
him to get
talk,
them.
like I was like, Randy's right, and then Talon's right. Oh, Randy's right.
They're both
This is good.
This-
This
I don't
is
think
good.
either of us are wrong.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna like, this is what I think of whenever I think of the definition, like trying to sort between the two. And it's a very simplified, I guess, explanation. Is I think of someone like a soccer player. One soccer player plays because it's fun, and another soccer player plays because they want awards. That's like the very dumbed down, simplified version that I use.
Yeah.
To
Lord
define
knows that's a very good
intrinsic
one.
versus extrinsic.
Yeah, that's how I've always viewed it too. Like intrinsic, it's literally just, hey, I'm doing this because I want to do it. Simple as that, and I'm enjoying seeing the work be done. Versus extrinsic, I'm doing this because I want someone else to give me something, or I want someone else
True.
to see me
Right.
doing this. Yeah.
And
And
that's
I
a very
think-
good point. And at the core, that really does come down to like the definition of what each is, because like that's the whole thing is people who are typically intrinsically motivated don't really care about rewards. People who are extrinsically motivated do. But again, that's where I think it gets subjective and where it could kind of lean either way. Like in Chris's situation, I think it could kind of lean either way because he wants these things for himself, which would lead me to believe intrinsic. But then you make a fair point of saying he wants to do it for others to see. So again, that would be extrinsic. So it does kind of fall into a gray area.
So I think I'm definitely more intrinsic, and I know back, I don't know which episode we talk a lot, but one of them I said, like if don't let one person ruin your day, basically. So like for example, if like your boss is just ruining your day and like thinks you're lazy, I mean maybe if your boss, but like your direct supervisor or some shit, like if that one person thinks you're lazy or something, I'm intrinsically motivated because I don't care what that person thinks of me, whether I'm going to get an award or like if they're going to reward me for doing work or anything. I don't care because I know I'm doing my best and they
Right.
just might not see it. So I think that's a good example of also being intrinsically motivated. Like how do you keep going without worrying what the person above you thinks? Like,
Right.
I mean, that's easier said than done, right? Because not for the military, but at the end of the day, like your boss controls your raises and all that shit, your
True.
promotions and
Yep.
everything. For military, it's different. You test well, guess what? You get promoted. So,
So there,
Ish.
would you? So we kind of defined it, right? Intrinsic
Right.
versus extrinsic. So should we talk about maybe the pros and cons to each of them?
sure.
Yeah, we could do that.
Start it off.
Yeah. Okay, so I was thinking about this a little bit earlier, and I was thinking about people working out, myself personally. So when I first started working out, I was definitely extrinsically motivated because I was just looking at people online on Instagram and magazines, and I was like, man, I want to look like that. I want to get recognition from other people with my work. So I started working out and then got fit and started posting on Instagram, I did become a personal trainer. And I was like, oh, well, the thing to do is just post my body on Instagram. And that's what attracts people. And it did attract people. And I built like a small following. But then at one point I just realized that this wasn't for me and that it wasn't healthy for me to seek recognition from other people who I don't even know online. So then I started to shift my mindset or flip the switch. Wait, switch the flip?
Switch flip.
Switch the flip. I said it correct. I was
waiting
now
on
it's
it.
wrong. I switched the flip. And then I started to focus more on how I felt and, just being healthy overall and my functionality, my mobility, my strength, and less on looks. So at one point I was extrinsically motivated and then I switched to more intrinsically. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
And
was really hoping
Randy
you would
said that
bring that up.
before. Randy said that before that you can kind of switch and you can learn from like the other side of it and everything. And I think
Yeah.
it's really important to be able to like adapt to that because depending on your career field, for example, or just what you're doing day to day, depending on what you're doing, you might be an extrinsic person, but guess what? Maybe you work for like a tech company where you just sit in a cubicle and you don't really talk to people. And it's like you finish your project and your boss is like, okay, cool. You need like if you're an extrinsic person and you need that from like the outside reward, at that point you kind of have to be like, okay, I need to start doing this for myself. I need to finish this project because I want to finish it myself. Because like you just have to adapt to your environment. Otherwise you're just going to be depressed all the time.
Yeah, and I think we're almost painting extrinsic in a bad sense, and
Yeah.
it's not. Like for if you didn't have that extrinsic motivation, you would have never got fit. Like you would have never started that. So it is
Yeah.
a good thing.
I
Like
think
Talon
we're
said
all,
though, it's
Yeah.
just about shifting it. Like once you hit a certain point, like do you really need that validation from other people, or do you find it within yourself to then validate yourself and like motivate yourself?
Yeah, and that brings me to one big point is being extrinsically motivated. It can give you a lot of drive and momentum to like build up to a goal. So like posting on Instagram, that's always there. There are always people on there to see what I'm posting. So that extrinsic motivation was constantly there. I didn't have a problem being consistent with my workouts, and that's like a big factor that plays into all of this, right? Consistency. So I was super consistent for years, and I built the body I wanted and all that. And then one thing I found out is it's easier, at least personally, I think in my journey, it was easier being consistent with that extrinsic motivation. It's a little more difficult sometimes with that intrinsic mindset, because there's not always going to be someone there to pat you on the back, if you're not displaying your workout for everyone to see. So that then you have to start thinking about your why. When you're starting to shift into that intrinsic mindset, you need to think about your why, and your why ultimately has to be bigger than the suffering that comes between the work and the goal. Yep, and that was a huge realization for me.
Big brain statement right there.
Yeah.
No, that's 100% too, man. I mean, it's one of those things where it's also situational. Like, I mean, I was starting to say before also that I think all of us, I would say baseline, are intrinsically motivated. I don't think any of us really do so much of what we do because we care what others think. I don't think we would consider or continue to do this if we were extrinsically motivated. I think this is, at least at the time being, I think this is more for us. I think we like doing this. I don't think we would continue doing it if we didn't like doing it, even if we were, super ridiculously successful with it. I don't think we would continue to do it if we didn't like it.
Right.
But at the same time, I think situationally, you have situations where your intrinsic motivation takes over, and you have situations where your extrinsic motivation takes over. Like, it's just like Jared said, when you are looking at things from like an intrinsically motivated perspective, you are the only one who can push you forward at that point. So that's kind of, we were saying we were kind of painting extrinsic in a negative light. Well, intrinsic can be kind of negative too, because if you are the only one pushing you forward and then you kind of lose motivation in that thing you're doing, then I kind of feel like, because I know that I'm very intrinsically motivated, and that's why I think I kind of hop from thing to thing periodically, because I'll kind of like lose motivation for that one thing and then I won't push myself forward. But then that's where it's great to have others behind you, because then they can say like, oh no, you're doing great. Like, keep doing it, keep pushing forward. So like, there is aspects of both that you need. Like, you need to have both. You can't just have one. Mm-hmm. If you just have one, you're going to fail.
I think that's a really good point, because I know, like, me personally, I'm intrinsically motivated, and if I lose that motivation for whatever task that I'm doing, it kind of just goes down to a spiral, because guess what? If I don't have motivation, I'm not going to get that motivation back from other people or anything like that. And it becomes a spiral at that point, because how do you get yourself out of that at that point? Right. If you're intrinsically motivated, but you lose that motivation, that's all you have. So you can't really do much at that point, except just kind of like wait until you get that motivation back.
You can't force motivation, it's like, you can't, especially as being intrinsic, like, you can't force it and be like, I have to make myself motivated to do this. Like, it just doesn't work that way. Or if you do, you're not going to get a good result in what you're doing, because you're just doing it because it's like an arbitrary thing at this point.
I wonder if there's a direct relationship between like hobbies and work versus intrinsic and extrinsic, because I know like photography right now, it's more of a, like, yes, I want it to be a business, but right now it's more of a hobby. So I'm intrinsically motivated because, I want to get cool shots. And I haven't even posted half of them. Like, I just enjoy taking cool photos. And you enjoy it.
Yeah.
Right.
See, that's more intrinsic.
But here's the thing is Bear. Hey, Bear. Hey, Bear. I get burnt out very easily, just like you're saying. Mm-hmm. I'm in Omaha. I want to do like travel photography and go all these cool places, but I'm in Omaha, and I haven't taken a photo here for a few months. Granted, I've been a little busy, but at the same time, if I had that person like pushing me, like another photography friend, like push me, like, hey, let's go do this. That looks really cool. Like, I love your work. Let's go take some more. That's all I would need, right?
Right. Well, actually, based on that point, sorry to cut you off, but I really want to make a good point here because this was actually something that we talked about a few months ago when you were saying about going to Germany.
Yeah.
And we were having a conversation in the chat, and you had said, I think going to Germany could really help my photography take off. And I know I said it. I think Talon said it too. We were both like, well, why does going to Germany change that? And then we were kind of like, you can get, like, if you find the right shots and set stuff up, like, you could get really cool shots in somewhere as bland as a desert. You can get really cool shots in Omaha. You can really get really good shots in Germany. You just have to find them.
Right.
That's the thing. So, like, I think that's where it's important, where, like, as you are intrinsically motivated for the most part with your photography, it kind of takes that little bit of a push from other people sometimes to stay motivated and, like, stay positive about it.
Yeah.
A good point to make is it doesn't matter whether you're like what type of motivation you get your drive from. Motivation is fleeting, right? So we're not always going to be motivated. So, I mean, you can't have motivation without the opposite, right? Unmotivation.
Right.
So
unmotivation is that a word?
Unmotivated.
We're gonna say it's
unmotivated.
Anti-motivation.
Anti-motivation, yeah.
So you have to, like, you enjoy photography. You, like, at the core of it, like why you started, it's because you like it. You found some enjoyment out of it. So maybe taking a step back and then just doing it for the fun of it. I mean, you see a lot of people who are professionals and maybe their specific niche. You hear them talk about this all the time, is they achieve like all of these accolades and did I say that right? Accolades? Yeah.
Accolades.
Accolades.
Allocates. It's allocated.
Oh my god.
Just to delete that, Talon. No, he's gonna keep doing it.
No.
It's
So they achieve this great success, right? And then they get to a point where they're like, you know what? At one point, I just started to do it because I enjoyed it. You know, they find that enjoyment again and fall in love with it again. So I think that's what you need to do with photography, is just start doing it. Be like, hey, this would be fun. Like, let me go out and take a picture like in this field and try to do some creative shots in the middle of Nebraska. You know, it's not a mountain. It's not this roaring river. It's not like a snowy mountain or anything, but you might be able to get some creative shots out of it too.
Make that cornfield look dope as shit.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, bro.
Actually, I mean, for your photography, so Scotts Bluff is actually becoming a really big area for like movie making, because
Where the hell's Scotts Bluff?
it's literally right next to like Council Bluffs. It's literally just like the bluffs, like that. You know what bluffs are, right?
Yeah.
So it's literally
Nice,
just over there
perfect.
because like people like the environment, and there's just not that many people, so like it's great for recording movies and stuff like that.
How do you know this?
Huh?
How do you know this?
You do not follow like any cinematographers or anything like that?
Not around here, no.
All right, our
Not
next
around-
step.
Well, yeah, not around
lessons
here in
learned.
Intrinsically
Hollywood.
motivated.
So, and real fast, I don't want to be like go against like your own opinion and everything, but from the outside, I personally feel like for the most part, you're most of the time extrinsically motivated.
Really?
A lot of the things that you do, you kind of seek out that external factor from other people. So like, yes, you
He
love your
does.
photography, but a lot of the time you do the photography and then you like record a Snapchat of you editing your photos.
True.
Little things like that.
I agree with Talon on this.
The same
big
with
time.
you. The same with you not going out and doing those photos. You want that external factor, someone to give you that push a lot of the time. And even with work, and even with this podcast, when you did the video editing and stuff like that, also by the way, like great job. Like the YouTube channel is doing great right now.
Thanks, man.
If anyone hasn't looked at the YouTube channel, check it out. I mean, we're recording
Do
video
it.
right now,
Yeah.
so that's just a reminder for everyone. But when you were doing those YouTube videos, guess what? You finished it and you're like, fuck yeah! Like in the Snapchat, look what I did! And this is like, and like you're just
Oh,
like,
he's
and then
right.
you do the Instagram, and then you do an Instagram post, then you do a TikTok post, and you're just like, what? Like catch up, guys! This is what grinding
peep the
means.
TikTok.
And then like when we do something, so like when I edit like the podcast, I honestly forget about it, and like 5 days later, I'm like, oh yeah, it's in the drive, guys.
By the way,
I forgot
put the
about
episode
it.
in the drive.
Or
It's
like,
funny.
or like,
very accurate.
or like just little things like when Joe does a TikTok or Randy does a TikTok, it's just like there's new TikTok. Simple as that.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I guess I'm just like excited about it.
you're excited, and that's fine because we talked
Yeah.
about like happiness with Tony. Is like when you feel happy, you do want to share that exactly. But
I see where you're coming from.
yeah,
and maybe
exactly.
maybe I need to analyze this. Like this is
Maybe
the whole
this
point
is
of this
good.
episode is like, how are you motivated?
Yeah.
I
And
thought I was one
yeah.
thing, but maybe I'm the other.
and Jared just talked about like the demotivation, the anti-motivation. So like at work, if you
Or
don't get that
whatever.
like it seems like if you don't get that external someone being like, hey, you're doing a good job, you get demotivated very easily. If
Me?
you don't, yeah, it feels like it. Like you'll get your work done, but like say like you're the current person that you're not like vibing with right now and everything like that.
Yeah.
Like it demotivates you, it brings you down and everything like that, because they're not giving you the recognition that like you do your work, they're not giving you any recognition for it. They don't notice that for the most part, it seems like.
So for
Yeah.
that one, this is where I said between hobbies and work, I think it's different. That one I don't give a shit about.
Oh yeah.
Realistically, like yeah, they kind of ruined my day, but it doesn't like I'm not any less motivated. Like
Yeah.
I just might
And
be
this-
like
You're just grumpy now.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not a bad. It's not really a bad thing because guess what? You got the work done. Like you got
Yeah.
shit done.
Exactly. Like
you know?
like his like that I guess ambiance surroundings doesn't make me do less work. Like I still do the same amount of work, and like I think like I'm not unmotivated, anti-motivated.
But whatever.
But
Um,
let me ask you, are you motivated to stay longer or do more work than you need to though at the same time? Like do you like I don't know if you if you had times in the past like at work, but you love everyone, like they give you the recognition you deserve, doesn't make you want to stay around longer, doesn't make you want to do more.
No.
No?
No.
Okay, then that's definitely
Yeah.
intrinsic. Yeah.
Yeah, because I might like people, but if there's no work to be done, like I work ahead no matter what. Like
Yeah.
I'll work like a week ahead just to make my life easier. So even if I like the people I'm around, like I might stay longer just to hang out with them, but it's not to do more work or anything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See,
But-
and that's where I think that I'm personally extrinsically motivated.
Me
yeah.
too.
Because
Hold on,
I run
on,
into
boys.
that at work too.
I want to hear Joe's perspective because he's been real quiet this episode.
I've
He's lurking.
been wanting to jump in so much, and then you guys
So
keep
just
jump
jumping
in.
between each other.
Yeah, let's talk about you.
Now,
Dive on in.
so I'm thinking more so of examples between friends and all. So the one thing that you guys were actually the one point that I really wanted to bring up for a while is that some people cannot find their way to get intrinsically motivated. So a good example I have is one of my friends. She is very intrinsically motivated at work. Like she has that huge self-drive to advance her career and everything like that. But she wants to better herself fitness-wise. But she cannot find any motivation to work out at all. So she spent a lot of money on getting personal trainers and everything like this just to have that extrinsic motivation, like someone to push her along, like what we've been talking about. I'm like, but you have us. I'm like, I think I'm relatively intrinsically motivated, like for the gym status. I mean, I did just put up a Snapchat yesterday of me squatting, but
Yes.
yeah, but that was like the first ever. I don't think I've
Yeah,
ever seen you.
exactly.
so.
Putting up
Yeah,
big
you don't really
weights.
do that much.
Ish. It was kind of like a pride thing of like me making progress. I kind of wanted to put it on display. But yeah, there are just those people who cannot find that motivation, which is where I really wanted to highlight that it is very hard for some people to find intrinsic motivation, and they require the extrinsic.
Which, like I said, isn't a bad thing.
it's not
Like,
a bad
that's
thing.
what motivates
No.
you. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
And again, the whole point we're trying to make is, kind of like what motivates you and like where do you go from there?
Correct.
Yeah.
Um,
Like we've talked about it. Yeah, I don't think there's a pro or con to intrinsic or extrinsic. Extrinsic, it's great. It can really push someone, but if you don't have that, I mean, you're going down a dark tunnel. Like if you don't have someone else pushing you. Intrinsic, same thing. Like if you can't push yourself, guess what? You can't get anything done. So it doesn't matter without the external stimuli. So
Yeah. Me personally, I know I'm a little bit of both. I think me and Chris are along the same pages there. I do love, actually, the one thing I found that I loved, mainly with working out, is what Jared said, is getting those compliments from everyone. And I found a gym, bro. I wanted to bring this up real quick, right? So I got one of the funniest messages ever last night.
way.
Yes, I gotta bring this up, bro.
Bromance?
Yes,
Uh-oh.
huge romance. So my buddy is, I would call him extrinsic. So we have been split up as gym bros recently because our schedules are the complete opposite now.
Yes.
And
Tear.
so it's so sad. And so he texted me yesterday. He's like, bro, the gym's literally ass by myself. He says, you literally hold my life in your hands. I can't push myself alone. I'm like, oh my God, this is perfect for today.
I think he's simping over you.
Yeah.
Dude, I was like, oh my God, that is the sweetest thing I've ever heard.
That's adorable.
Well, yeah,
Joe, would you say you're his rock?
I would say I am his rock.
Oh, yeah.
I love how you guys tied it in.
Dude, you
Oh, that's
you
Just
just
got it ready to go.
you need to Photoshop that, and instead of the rock, just put your face, and then just send it to him.
Dog.
It's
No,
like,
put-
is this how you feel?
Put his face on the rock, and you're the rock.
I'm the rock holding my rock, Johnson.
Yeah.
For anyone who's
Oh my
listening,
God.
who's not watching on YouTube, he just held up a picture of Dwayne the Rock Johnson holding a rock.
Dude.
Dwayne the Rock holding the Rock Johnson.
There it is.
Look it
Randy
up
has it.
on
That's
Google Images if you don't know what it is.
hilarious.
Dog, it is amazing. But Randy,
Yeah,
what
so,
were-
guys, I just thought of something real quick.
Oh, boy.
Pretty important point here. You know where somewhere that I'm extrinsically motivated?
Where?
Reading.
Reading.
Yeah.
Ah,
well,
yes.
Reading.
Number one, you can't, so maybe you should learn.
Well,
There's some
Yeah,
motivation.
but because I can't, what can I do instead?
Ah,
Ooh,
Audible.
I know. Audible.
you could listen.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
On Audible for
30 days
free
for
for
free?
30 days if you
Ooh.
click the link in the description. So go check
Ooh.
that out, guys.
If
Do
Randy
it.
can do it, you can do it.
Yeah,
you don't,
really.
You don't
I
need
mean,
to
I have
read.
to read the link, so that's difficult in and of itself. So, I
Oh
mean,
my God. Stop.
Dude,
Oh my God.
that was a good transit. You're like 2 for 2 today.
damn, I'm killing it.
I didn't even see that coming. Like that was
Straight
good.
fire. Anyway, Joe. Back
Oh,
to
no.
Oh, so
I was about to
I
ask
actually
you
had a
actually what you
question
want
for
to
you.
get into.
no, I had a question for you actually.
Okay.
So
Shut up, Jared.
would you say that you personally have gone through an intrinsic to extrinsic or vice versa? Oh, Jared's gone. Is he off camera to go cry?
Yeah.
Jared, come
all
back.
right.
I'm
Shit.
sorry.
No.
Baby,
Just
come back,
forget
come
about
back.
him. Just keep talking.
You could blame it all on Joe.
All right. Question again.
So would you say that you've kind of made a transition from extrinsic to more intrinsic? And the reason I ask that is because I know you used to do like YouTube videos and like did you do streaming a while for video games?
I did not do streaming. I did make YouTube videos for gaming.
YouTube videos.
Yes.
Okay.
But
Okay, now let me ask you, did you do that like as a thing to get popular? Did you do that because you wanted to try and make money off of it? Or did you do it just because you like doing it and it was fun?
You know what? It's a little bit of both. So it's yeah. So I loved the idea of making videos and everything. I loved, video games. Pretty much the whole idea of it. I was behind just a passion for it. But of course I saw the potential of careers, that's when YouTube
Right.
was exploding. I'm like, this is actually something that I could do and make a career out of. So it's a little bit of both.
Just think, if you actually stuck with it, you probably would have made it, because that was before YouTube was big.
I know.
Yeah.
Right.
It was the finances and everything else that kind of held me back, but
Mm.
you can make excuses for days. But
To be fair, I kept shitting on you. I was like, Joe, that's so stupid. Like, you're never gonna make money off
Wow,
of it.
yeah,
Chris.
exactly.
You're
Extrinsic.
brother. Yeah.
There's your extrinsic motivation.
unmotivated.
Motivation
dickhead.
or anti-motivation.
Yeah,
or whatever.
exactly.
There it is. Chris's
Um,
anti-motivation.
Yeah.
But real
But-
quick, Randy, you asked if I had the transition, right?
Yeah.
Perfect example for me was actually with the gym again. Our buddy Brandon, New Brandon.
New Brandon?
New Brandon. New Brandon is who actually got me into the gym in the first place. Chris,
That big idiot.
yes.
Oh.
So when Chris moved away for the Air Force and all, I was left with Brandon, and he was like, "Bro, I need a gym partner. You're coming with me."
Big
pretty much. But that was when I was like 19, just getting into college, and I'm like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" And that's when I fell in love with it, and to the point where once Brandon left, he moved down to Florida, and I just loved the idea of lifting heavy things and hurting myself. So
Feels good.
So I
Lifting
continue
something
to
down.
do it on my own,
Nice.
Okay.
And now you're a cripple.
So,
and now I'm a
and
cripple.
that's it. Kind of leads me to a point where you can, and again, we talked about with Jared, we talked about with you, and even with my woodworking business as well. That kind of started off as just something that I like to do, and then it kind of turned into something I make money off of. So I would say even with that, that was something that I started off with an intrinsic motivation, and it kind of transformed to an extrinsic motivation.
Yeah, because you've been
So-
doing that for a while now.
Yeah, and like literally the first ones I did was just because I was bored. Like I was
Right.
bored. I did a couple things. I put up some pictures just because, and people were like, "Hey, you should do this." And then people bought stuff, and I was like, "Whoa, this is actually maybe an easy way I can make some extra money."
Mm-hmm.
So it went from intrinsic to extrinsic. So a lot of times that can happen with things, or even vice versa, like with Jared, where it started off as like an extrinsic thing that kind of morphed into an intrinsic thing. So there's definitely, it's not cut and dry.
Again, I think just from listening, like I didn't do any research behind this, but just from listening to us, I think there's definitely a switch between hobbies and work of how you are motivated.
I think so.
Like stuff you enjoy versus stuff you have to do. How are you motivated
Right.
differently?
What if you enjoy work?
Then you've
yeah.
made it in life.
Then you're
Then you
talented.
found
there.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. But damn it, Talon, I lost my train of thought. I had something good.
Good question.
I like.
Damn it. I forget. Anyway, someone else talk.
The difference.
I know Jared. Jared wanted to say something earlier. I told him to shut up.
The okay, that thought will come back. But
Sorry.
so Joe, you mentioned your.
I
friend.
remembered.
Oh, never mind.
Are you serious?
Chris,
Yeah, I
you
really
dick.
did. I really did remember. No, Jared, go ahead. No, wait. Before I forget.
Go.
This is important. All right. So for our listeners, the number one, I guess I don't know what I'm trying to get here for our audience, right? How do you
Says he
find
knows.
like how do we determine which we are to actually improve upon ourselves? Like how do we like? I thought I was intrinsic until Talon just totally shit on me and told me I'm extrinsic. So.
That's
Maybe
what
I
you need
am.
to hear.
You know, like how, like, does it take a friend to, like, an outside point of view to point it out to you, or like, can you find it yourself and like, can you identify which you are?
I think you can find it. I think you have to look at the decisions that you've made in the past and look at why you made those decisions. So like one of my biggest regrets, honestly, and I'm not shitting on going to college at all, but I think my biggest regrets was going to college. But I did that from an extrinsic motivation because everybody told me, if you want to make it, you have to go to college. You have to go to college. You
That's
have
a
to go get extra
huge
schooling.
point.
And I think just because of my nature, like I would say with fair certainty that overall baseline, I am an intrinsically motivated person. And typically speaking, and again, this is based on studies that I read, intrinsically motivated people don't do as well with like the school kind of environment. And I didn't do well with the school environment. And I don't think that's because I'm not smart and I couldn't handle it. I think it's just because that's not kind of like how my personality flows. Like I don't really like to, fuck you, Chris. I see you.
Just looking at his face.
No, but seriously, I think I'm very smart, but I think at the same time, I just don't, fuck you. I just don't think that's how, like, my brain works in, like, the kind of school setting. And I don't think it was a good decision for me, and I made a poor decision based on, like, extrinsic motivation, like, a poor source of motivation. Where I think if I had kind of listened to my intrinsic motivations, which are really what tend to drive me more, I could have made a better decision and found a better route for myself.
All joking aside, yeah, I was making fun of you, but like for real though,
know.
that's a very good point. Like look at Elon. He didn't go to college,
Yeah.
did he? Man,
He was a
Bill Gates.
dropout? Question mark?
yeah,
Yep.
whatever. But he always talks about like college is a waste of money.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
for some it is, for some it's not. For some
Depending,
that
yeah.
is
Right.
that is the step you need to take to get into the job you want. But
Right. Exactly.
there's so many that you don't need that as well.
Mhm.
So that's a good point, Randy. Yeah, I could see that because you definitely didn't want to go to school Like just weren't motivated, and like as your friend, I could see that, and like I guess you were motivated for baseball. But
yeah, that was kind of it.
Yeah, other than that, like you didn't want to be there. You were just told, "This is what's expected of me, so this is what I'm gonna do."
It was society, was that external factor right
Exactly.
there telling you that that's what you should do.
Well, so after my last year at NJIT, before I transferred and changed my major, I came and visited you.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that? And like I think you could tell there was like a total like switch in my attitude, because like I think I finally knew like I was making more of a right. Now again, if I really like thought back, like knowing what I know now, I probably wouldn't have even gone back to school, or not gone to school in the first place. But I think just because like it was more my decision to make, I think I was a lot happier with that decision.
Yeah, for sure. I can see you're definitely intrinsic. I can't think of an example where you are extrinsic.
I mean, you just said
there's
it's woodworking.
times like I said, like with a lot of the woodworking stuff, I can be at work. I can be, because I very much do like what you guys, what Talon was talking about, where like if I'm working my ass off and I get no recognition for it, I'm like, all right, well then I'm not going to work my ass off anymore, because why am I going to do extra work if I'm not going to get more pay or better benefits or whatever? Like,
At least
that's a very extrinsic, but that rolls back to your point where it's like hobbies versus work. Like at work, I'm doing this for a reason. I'm doing it to make money, which is extrinsic in nature. So it's kind of like if I'm doing that, if I'm doing extra work and I'm not getting anything for it, then I'm not going to do extra work.
Right.
Plain and simple.
I think that's a lot of people.
Yeah, and that's a purely extrinsic view, but that's also extrinsic situationally. And that's where a point I kind of made before, where it's like I think it is very situational.
Yeah. That's why I think when Talon said the people who enjoy their work, like that's almost entrepreneurship spirit, right? Like they're so like they motivate themselves. They can do whatever they want because they love what they do and they're motivated from within. So they're going to be super successful because that's what they want to do and that's what they enjoy.
I don't even think success has to be
the
reason. I think for a lot of careers, something like if you make something. So like I don't know, like if like Randy worked for like an actual like major like woodworking company or something like that, if he had pride in what he made, guess what? It's intrinsic right there, because he's not going to put something crappy together because he's the one that's building this thing. He's going to put his pride into it.
Right.
That's going to be intrinsic right there. So I think it really depends on what you do as a career too, is what could motivate you.
Yeah. My goal
is
it's
funny you say that, Talon, because I do that. Like if there's any kind of like minor imperfection on something I made, I point it out. Yeah. And people are like, I would have never noticed that if you didn't show me. It's like, yeah, well, I know it's there.
Yeah, you're the one that made it. Exactly.
I think the lifelong goal for me, at least, is to do that, is to find a career where I'm intrinsically motivated, like 100%.
Hell yeah, brother.
Yeah, I think that's what I want. So,
Jared, did you have that question now?
Yeah, go ahead, buddy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. So you mentioned you mentioned your friend.
Oh, I remembered something else. No, just
shut up.
You mentioned your friend and getting into the gym and trying to stay consistent with it, and how she's having struggles with that, right?
Yes.
So all this talk about the different types of motivations, I feel like it's just a means to a end product or a means to a goal, But when it comes down to it, it's nice to identify which end of the spectrum you get your drive from. However, at the end of the day, it's not always going to be there. No matter what type of motivation you are, the motivation's going to go away. So what keeps you going when it's not there? And I think
discipline.
Yeah, I think it's discipline, So with her, maybe when she was shopping around for personal trainers, she was probably most likely in a motivated state of mind. So a big mistake that I've heard from a lot of fitness experts and entrepreneurs and all that is they say a lot of their clients will come to them in a motivated state of mind, like a heightened state of mind. And what they have to do as the professional is they have to bring them back down to like a base level and be like, hey, so here are some more realistic goals. Like, and the question that they get asked, or that the personal trainer should ask them, is, what is something that you can stick to forever? And then the person has to step back and be like, oh, I have to do this forever. I mean, that's a long time. So that's, they start to realize, what they're getting into. So maybe for your friend, it would be just going to the gym once a week or twice a week, not 5 days a week. And then just paying attention to how she feels and paying attention to like the weight that she's putting up or the reps that she's doing. So maybe the first week you can do 12 reps with a certain amount of weight. And then the next week you can do 1 or 2 more reps. And then maybe on the third week you can still only do, 13 or 14 reps. But guess what? That's still 1 or 2 more reps than you could do the first week. So focusing on these small goals, like the small wins, and then truly getting to enjoy the process, like enjoying it. And that's what will keep you going when you don't have that motivation.
Look at not how far you have to go, but how far you've come.
Ooh, nice. That's from somewhere.
Enjoy the process.
Sweet.
Yes.
So hopefully we kind of harped on like which we are individually, but I wanted to throw in that aspect of how do you find out what you are, because that really does determine how motivated you're going to be and how I don't want to use success, but that does help with everyday life. Is how am I motivated? Do I get the recognition I'm looking for, or does it not matter to me and like it comes from within and like I'm motivated from myself? So whether it's hobbies or work, like hopefully everyone listening learned something. I know I learned something today, and you can go on and be motivated in your life no matter what it is you do. So thanks for listening.
This has been Lessons Learned. Thank you for tuning in as we talk about different types of motivation. We probably said extrinsic and intrinsic about 100 times this episode. You will get a special prize if you actually count them and let us know how many were in there. But this has been Lessons Learned. Thank you for tuning in, and check out our YouTube if you aren't listening there. Subscribe,
link in the bio.
Like, and comment for the YouTube algorithm. We appreciate that. Leave a review if you haven't. It really helps us get higher up in the search results, so we would appreciate that. And thanks again for tuning in. See you next Monday.
See ya.
See ya.